This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Realism is the opinion placed upon international politics by emphasizing the competitive and conflicting sides. It is through realism that we can theoretically study international relations. Realists define international states as states in which the political leaders are concerned with their security, struggle for power, and act in their own interests. It is important to note that realism is broadly grouped into classical realism and neorealism. Classical realism has been the core theme of study in the world's politics since 1946. In fact, classical realism was seen as the natural way of maintaining peace after the Second World War. Neorealism, on the other hand, is the modern realism practiced in most of the nations today. Some of the founders of realism were Hobbes, Thucydides, and Machiavelli, just to mention a few. This paper is, therefore, an in-depth analysis of the relationship between Hobbes and classical realism. Thomas Hobbes was an English philosopher and the writer of Leviathan. Like the other founding fathers of realism, Hobbes laid out the foundations of classical realism. Hobbes and his colleagues emphasized power as being the heart of classical realism. Nevertheless, Hobbes was a significant contributor to the state-centric dimension of classical realism. In this, Hobbes explained that in realism, all international relations would revolve around a single state. One of the most significant contributions that Hobbes made to realism was the definition of power. Hobbes defined power in a way that was different from other realists. Although power is a term difficult to define, Hobbes clearly indicated the importance of power in realism. He defined power as the ability to get much from the people one governs. Realism is based on power and self-interest. Thus, leaders under this ideology are characterized by different ideas from those of the states. More often than not, realists believe that they have been confined to international lawlessness. In that case, human nature is viewed as being egocentric. Hobbes indicated that leaders under realism are not necessarily selfish, but may conflict with other people's ideas. Realism is, therefore, the opposite of liberalism. In addition to this, Hobbes created the relevancy of international relations in the 21st century. According to Hobbes, realism works best when people are involved in international relationships. Hobbes is an advocate of classical realism, which is the first generation of the realism ideology. The philosophical view of Hobbes maintains that human nature plays a significant role in leadership under classical realism. Hobbes' other invention was the Hobbesian logic of anarchy, which advocated for power and authority in leadership. Unlike the other realists, Hobbes believed that most people attach realism to human nature. With that in mind, realism is inevitable. Despite the much advocacy on realism, it is criticized for its inability to detect weaknesses and changes in international relations. Since realists accord high value to security and power, there is usually the risk of giving preference to autonomy in independent actions and decisions. As such, there are higher chances of nations governed by realists going to war than those governed by liberalists. Hobbes, on his side, contributed to the invention of realism and was a great campaigner for the same. His relationship with classical realism is, therefore, cordial. Did you like this Thomas Hobbes and classical realism relationship sample? To get more works like this one, make sure to check out the free database of academic paper examples at ivypanda.com. You will find thousands of samples for all your study needs, without even having to register.